Hello everyone, I'm Nabil Khan from Market.Insights and I welcome you back to the second episode of our first Deep Insight series where we are focusing on the graduation of Bangladesh from a least developed country into a developing country status. As a refresher, the United Nations categorizes countries and economies into three different tiers of development status. They are the least developed countries, the developing countries, and the developed countries. So we must have come across these terms such as the least developed countries or the developing countries. But how exactly does the United Nations decide on which country is a developed country? The Committee for Development Policy that sits within the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations assesses the performances of economies based on three criteria to decide whether or not that country is suitable to graduate from a least developed country to a developing country status. The criteria that the committee uses are the gross national income or the GNI, the human assets index or the HAI, and the economic vulnerability index or the EVI. And for each performance review, a country is allocated a certain benchmark to meet for each of these criteria, and upon meeting of these benchmarks for each of these criteria, a country can then officially graduate into the next step. So now we come to Bangladesh. For Bangladesh to graduate from an LDC into developing country status, it was given benchmarks to meet for each of these criteria. For Bangladesh, the criteria and the benchmarks were: the GNI per capita had to be greater than $1,230 per capita. The human assets index needed to be greater than 66, and the economic vulnerability index needed to be less than 32. And Bangladesh had to maintain these criteria and these benchmarks for 2 consecutive periods of 3 years each in order to officially graduate from an LDC into a developing country. We will start by focusing on the GNI or the gross national income. Now, a lot of us are familiar with GDP as an indicator of economic performance instead of GNI. However, some organizations use the GNI as an indicator of economic performance. What really is the difference between GDP and GNI? Well, while there are a lot of minute details that are different between the two criteria, the two indicators, in a broader perspective, we can say that GNI is in effect GDP plus the net receipts of an economy, or in other words, it's not only is the value of the products and services that are produced by the factors within that economy, but also it takes into account the money that comes into the economy as a result of the economic activity of that economy's factors around the globe. For example, when we talk about GDP of China, what we are looking at is the value of the services and products that are produced within the boundaries of China. However, when we look at GNI, it also takes into account the value of products and services that might be produced by Chinese factors of productions in the US, or let's say in Vietnam, or anywhere across the globe. It also takes out the value of products and services that are produced by foreign factors of production within the Chinese economy and Chinese boundaries. So for Bangladesh, when we look at the value of products and services that are produced within our country, we are also taking into consideration the products and services that are produced by, let's say, an American firm, whose results or whose profits might be driven back out of the economy. And we are also not considering the input or the inflow of money that is coming in from Bangladeshi people working abroad, or Bangladeshi companies that are producing products and services in the US or in any African nation. So GNI becomes important when we try to take into consideration not only where the product is produced but also where the money is going into. And hence the exports and imports that an economy does becomes very significant. As we mentioned, the GNI takes into account not only the value of output of an economy, but also takes into account the net flow of money into that economy. And when we're talking about the flow of money, exports and imports become significant. One of the key impacts of the LDC graduation for Bangladesh will be its reduction in exports. A lot of Bangladesh's exports come as a result of economic benefits or trade benefits that Bangladesh is granted thanks to it being an LDC. When the graduation happens, a lot of these benefits might not be there. And one of the key impacts, as we've just mentioned, will be on the exports. Exports are very important for the Bangladesh economy as it contributes 10% of the economic value. At the same time, 74% of the total exports of Bangladesh comes under the preferential trade benefits it enjoys as an LDC. When we look at it in terms of geography of the markets where the exports happen, the European Union contributes 64% of Bangladesh's export value. And this comes under the everything but arms agreement that Bangladesh has with the European Union, thanks to it being an LDC right now. When the graduation happens, this 64% of trade or exports will be impacted significantly. Now, while Bangladesh will graduate from an LDC in 2024, this facility of the EBA will be there in existence up until 2027. However, once the EBA agreement ceases to being in action in 2027, Bangladeshi exports to that market are likely to drop by as much as 5.7%. Exports, along with remittances, have had a significant impact on the Bangladesh economy. The money that comes in from the exports and the remittances is not only beneficial for the direct recipients of that money, but as a result of their economic activity, they might be purchasing something, or they might be supporting a family member in doing a business or a job. The result is that the money that comes in from these sources trickles down into other aspects of the economy, and hence has an impact on the overall economic standing of the country. The United Nations Industrial Development Organization forecasts that as a result of the LDC graduation, Bangladesh is likely to lose up to around 2 billion USD worth of exports every year. That means loss of jobs, that may mean reduction in salaries, and hence lesser money to drive economic activity across different sectors. And that is the loss that Bangladesh will have to think about. The graduation from an LDC will bring along with it the lifting of certain trade benefits that Bangladesh enjoys. And a lot of these benefits have ensured that Bangladeshi products in terms of price is very competitive when compared to its competitors such as Vietnam or Cambodia and Laos. When the benefits Bangladesh are enjoying as an LDC are no longer there, the competition will get tougher. Vietnam already has an FTA with the European Union, which means that competition with Vietnam in particular will become even more difficult when Bangladeshi products become dearer to European Union. So Bangladesh needs to be very careful in tackling these impacts of the graduation. RMG has played a significant role in Bangladesh's growth. As we mentioned before, when we think about exports from Bangladesh, the first thing that comes into our mind is RMG. One of the key reasons why Bangladesh has risen to its position as one of the top exporters of apparel items across the globe is the trade benefits and preferential treatment that it received as an LDC. And these benefits have helped Bangladesh remain price competitive for a lot of those countries. Now, when these benefits are no longer there, prices are likely to go up, and in such a price sensitive market, that can mean very difficult times for exporters. Hence, the exporters of the country need to find ways in order to navigate and ensure that the Bangladeshi exports, especially the RMG and other apparel products, remain competitive in order to ensure that these exports keep coming and the money keeps coming into the economy. Now, while negotiations are going on with different countries and partner economies in order to ensure that a lot of the benefits that Bangladesh has enjoyed as an LDC keeps on going beyond the graduation, Bangladesh must ensure that its exporters and manufacturers are exploring other ways of remaining competitive. Some of the things that the Bangladeshi exporters and manufacturers may explore will include more efficient supply chains, streamlined production processes, innovative means of production and sales of the products, and in terms, and especially for RMG, upgradation from basic clothing to higher end apparel. These will ensure that while the trade benefits are no longer there, we are finding an edge over our competitors, and we are finding markets that will give us better returns and help boost our exports. In addition to finding newer ways of staying competitive and maintaining and gaining market share in the already established apparel and leather products industries across the globe, Bangladesh must look to explore into other avenues of increasing its export earnings. Now, three things which Bangladesh can significantly focus on in order to increase its export revenue could be exploring newer markets. It could be diversifying the product basket for exports and increasing its human capital. Now, when we say product basket, it immediately might send a signal that it relates only to products, physical products that we may be able to export. But we can look at the export of services as well. Bangladesh is a very populous country, which means that there is scope of improving our human capital. By training our individuals in different skills which have a demand in the global market, we may be able to export their skills. Take, for example, the BPO or business process outsourcing businesses. So we must explore different ways and keep exploring newer ways of using all these channels in order to increase our exports, because as we have seen that exports have a significant opportunity of exponential growth, and hence will pave a way for Bangladesh to ensure continuous growth for its economy when certain benefits are not there upon graduation from an LDC. Having said that, exports have played a significant role in bringing Bangladesh to its economic standing where it is now. And beyond 2024 and 2027, we will still need to keep growing our exports in order to ensure that the economic growth and development of the country continues beyond that. In the next few episodes, we will be looking at other ways in which Bangladesh can increase its export revenues and hence have a significant improvement in the economic activities within the country, thereby increasing its GDP, its GNI, its quality of life. And I welcome you all in this journey as we explore newer ways for Bangladesh to not only bring growth, but to continue growing and developing as an economy and as a country. Thank you very much.